Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob, and today we'll be jumping into some malicious compliance. Our first story today comes to us from my posting name 13. Oh, you've made me hourly instead of salary because you're afraid I'll stop selling after I hit my commission cap. Should have just let me stay home. Let's jump right in. Years ago, I was an inside sales rep for a simultaneously large and tiny company in a niche market. The quotes are because it was at least equally outside sales. I just didn't go outside except to smoke. I've since quit. They had about 50 branches across the country of various sizes. The smallest was literally one guy who processed local orders and used hotshots for delivery. The largest had about 50 employees. I made 6 for my branch. I was literally the first salesman with a background in anything resembling sales that my branch had ever hired. They'd always hired the least socially awkward industry professionals they could prior to me, and they'd had their CSR doing the selling for over a year until I came on, so expectations were high. When they hired me, we had somewhat heated negotiations over the comp plan. It was a $42K base salary plus commission with a $56K OTE and $65K cap. I asked what I was meant to do after I hit the cap, to which they replied, "Continue to do your job," as if I wasn't going to have a problem with generating new business for free. I said that I was going to need a bonus structure beyond the cap if they wanted me to do any more hunting after that point. I made it clear that I'd service my accounts when they called, but I wanted to be clear that they were going to be disappointed if they expected me to make outbound calls looking for new business after I'd maxed my comp plan, and that I definitely enjoy the extra time at home with my family over the holidays. They said they understood, and we went through the onboarding. I worked almost exactly 40 hours for almost 2 months, early October to early December, before I had jury duty and missed a day. My check was about $150 light compared to what it had been, so I complained to payroll. Benefits kicked in at 90 days. That's when I found out I was making $21 an hour and was not, in fact, pulling a salary. Presumably, this was to force me into the office, as we didn't have remote access to the local network that logged our hours, just the ordering and inventory software. I didn't get even a prorated Christmas bonus because that counts as benefits, and you'd have to work 90 days to receive those. Cue malicious compliance. I discovered that if I left the house 30 minutes earlier, my 80-minute commute would take less than 25. So instead of showing up around 8:30 and chilling in my car for a bit, so I was working at 9, I was there at 7 with the warehouse guy sending emails. I started working through lunch as I ate at my desk as opposed to burning an hour off campus or in the break room. I didn't even realize I was losing an hour a day to lunch. I also discovered that if I stayed till 6:30, I'd get home by 7, as opposed to leaving a little after 5 and getting home around 6:30. So I spent an extra 5 hours a week away from home and worked an extra 22 compared to the 35 I was getting paid for before I figured it out. With the OT, I was clocking north of $2,000 more than intended every month. And oddly enough, no one even noticed until the internal auditor verified W-2s and noticed that I made significantly more than the branch manager. I didn't hit my commission cap until late November, so I spent the rest of the year training with the tech and/or warehouse guy, both stoners. They tried to put me on the same salaried comp plan I'd originally agreed to, but it was enough of a pay cut to qualify for constructive dismissal. So I got to quit and still collect unemployment for a month before I found another gig. I just don't understand companies that don't treat their salespeople like they're golden. I mean, without these salespeople, you wouldn't have any money coming in. In my opinion, they're probably the #1 person you want to make sure is satisfied with their job at all times. Do me a quick favor, have a look down below the video. If that subscribe button's still red, it means you're not actually subscribed to the KCC channel. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. Our second story today comes to us from Solid Mizzy. He said I could, so I did. Let's jump right in. This was back in 2019. I was training to become a level 2 swimming teacher, and the guy who ran the courses, we'll call him Bob, asked me to do him a huge favor and work in Scotland for a month as a lifeguard at one of the holiday resorts. I like the sound of it, and it's also great for me since I'd lost my job about a month prior and really could do with the money. So I go and work there, I do great, amazing experience and fun. They ask me to stay on an extra month. I agree a little begrudgingly since I have a swimming teacher job offer waiting, but after speaking with them, they are okay to wait the extra month. After a couple of weeks, they hire a new lifeguard. He causes some trouble with me and I decide that I've had enough and speak to the resort manager about leaving early. Since I wasn't meant to be staying later anyway and they have new lifeguards now, I figured I could go home. After having a chat with him, he agrees that it's okay. I try to talk to Bob, but he's off on holiday. So I tell his assistant and she says it should all be fine. So he owes me just over a week of wages, about 120 hours, 900 pounds-ish. When he comes back from his holiday, he tells me he isn't going to pay it because I walked out on the job. I call the resort manager to see if they have paid him for all my work there, and they had. I was steaming. I called Bob and basically told him he had to pay me the money I had earned. He just kept saying, "You walked out, I have the upper hand here, and you can take me to court, but my lawyer says I will win." So I thought, court it is. I had to go through tribunal first, so I took this opportunity to gather my evidence. The holiday resort was on my side, so they were happy to sign all my hours off and send them to me. In that time, I realized that I was only asking for wages, and holiday pay was mandatory, not optional. I wasn't expecting any kind of holiday pay beforehand, but since Bob wants me to go through all this trouble to get my basic pay, I may as well go full pelt and ask for holiday pay for the whole month and a half I was there. After speaking to a lawyer once I had the tribunal certificate, they calculated my missing pay and holiday pay to be £1,500. He paid it all to me the day before our court date. In this case, the boss was obviously bluffing and just hoping they could keep the money for themselves. People don't usually hold managers accountable for what they're doing, and they'll just walk away more often than not. It's an easy payday for that manager. OP, I'm glad you were able to knock them down a peg. Our next story today comes to us from Kitty Lilith 17. Sure, let's go over rent. Let's jump right in. I live with my husband and my good friend in a huge apartment. We have a third bedroom we use as a craft and hobby room. This past spring, my best friend was going through some hard things at home. His parents found out he was bi, and he's part of a very strict religion with no tolerance for the LGBT+ community. So after talking with my housemates, we invited him to come live with us. To say he was grateful was an understatement. He cried like big, manly, ribcage-racking sobs. He moved in immediately. The first month was great. I told him I wasn't going to charge him rent the first month because he had moving expenses and his parents were kind of extorting him for money and use of his SUV. The written expectation we all signed was rent, utilities, and the cost of one big meal per day divided by 4. I wrote it all down as rent, $1,800 divided by 4. Gas and electric between $100 and $150 divided by 4. Monthly grocery costs for 4 adults, $400 divided by 4. Evenly split, $537 a month. He agreed and promised to pay it by the 1st of every month starting in May. Well, as things usually go, that first month was as good as it got. He cooked and cleaned, made me coffee in the mornings, helped take care of my cat and my fish tank, and was always super friendly and understanding. By the end of April, he approached me and said he didn't think he could pay full rent that month. His parents said he owed them $6,000 and they hadn't given him his car back. He was work from home due to the pandemic and just all sorts of trouble. I said no problem. We had been getting along fine without him and he hadn't ever lied to me or given me reason to doubt him. $300 for food and utilities was fine. Things got crappy as they usually do. He kept demanding more of my time to talk about his feelings, got jealous when I spent time with my husband alone, and started asking if I was mad at him, like literally every day. Developed a big crush on our other roommate and tried to woo her and was crushed when she said no. Started eating our private food, criticizing my way of doing things without offering constructive feedback. The electricity spiked to over $300 because he left his lights and 3 computers on all the time. He caused a $50 overage fee for our Wi-Fi. I asked him to pay the difference and he did, but complained that we needed unlimited internet so he could do his job. I said okay, but he'd be on the hook for the extra charge. Things got worse, but they were still workable. I figured it was just him adjusting to living with other people. In July, he sat me down and said we needed to change our rent agreement. He felt he was paying too much for his share, and his sister in Arkansas said that his portion was outrageous, and that their household bills were less than $1,400 a month for a mortgage and a family of 5 people. So obviously, I was trying to wring money from him. So we went over the bills. Turns out I had made a mistake. He was absolutely right. The correct breakdown should have been rent $1,800 divided by 4. I had typed in $1,600 on my calculator originally, gas and electric $320 divided by 4, internet $90 divided by 4, plus $25 extra for his unlimited high speed, groceries $400 divided by 4. His new monthly payment was $677. I rounded down the change because I'm a good friend. He stayed 3 more months before getting traumatized by my other roommate after she brought a date home and broke his heart. We're still best friends, we just figured that we didn't mesh well living together. OP mentioned in the comments down below that they've had other roommates and there's always been an adjustment period. He just didn't adjust. He still kept everything really clean and was always pleasant to be around, just don't think he had enough real life experience. Our last story today comes to us from Leith Chian. Don't want to let me train a replacement before I leave? Alrighty then, let's jump right in. I used to work as the dedicated inventory guy for a tire and wheel store that dealt in only that. Big chain, all their guys wear black, not by choice, even on the most blistering of days. Nearly 10 years working there, and I was the only one handling their 5,000 to 7,500 tires, along with several hundred wheels, nuts, bolts, tire lube, replacement parts. Basically, I organized the entire store in terms of what was bought, sold, and used. I received most shipments, whether a single tire by FedEx or our 2 times a week shipment of 400 to 800 units. Not something I knew for a long time, but my technical job was listed as a 3-person rotating task. I did it all myself. The manager I worked with for most of those 10 years was very happy and supportive of me, trying to make sure I was taken care of if I needed help. Unfortunately, the company underwent plenty of black changes after the owner of the whole chain died. It shifted from a family thing to a profit and micromanagement thing. My great manager was stressed and went from great to not so great. I won't deny I got pretty upset with a few things from him, but it was just the situation didn't favor him. Ultimately, he was transferred to an administrative position to finish out till retirement, and we got a new manager and lots of extra salary salesmen. I was left on inventory, as everyone confirmed I was the only guy for the job that knew anything. They tried giving me newbies to learn the ropes, but I only got a couple of days with them before they were pulled for more important things. Eventually, they gave up caring and figured I would do inventory for the foreseeable future. Well, the end of 2018 came with me looking for other opportunities. It wasn't entirely because of the shift at work, but doing a 3-person job after 10 years was starting to take its toll on my back. I started about 20 and was getting close to 30. I can't deny I was getting kinda scared I would do something irreparable to my back that would stick with me forever. They pulled equipment I needed to do better without straining myself more, made the process of pulling inventory more bureaucratic and lengthy without need for it, and would keep trying to limit my time doing things, but expect the same results. They also kept resisting my plans to reorganize stock because brands don't always need the same amount of space. That major brand that did really well 3 years ago and taking up 1,000 tires worth of space only takes up 400 now. But hey, I have this brand that did an overhaul and we used to carry barely 250 for them. Now, we are ordering hundreds of them weekly with a need for 750 units of space. So there's stock unable to fit in one place, but a huge gap in another I can fill. I'm sure some of you can understand you don't just start shoving items from the wrong brand into a gap because there's space there, use it. As I'm in the final weeks of my lovely tenure there, I've been training for the new job for about 6 weeks. They had plenty of warning to replace my position. I reminded them they should find someone I can give the rundown to before it's too late. My new management, as well as 2 salesmen I've never liked, tell me in very businessy and polite terms, just do your job and let us worry about it. I tried to be nice about it because while I don't get on well with the salesman, except one, he was always great, and I love my fellow service techs in the back getting dirty on every car, through the heat of the summer and getting our legs turned almost blue when working in the freezing snow and slush of the winter, I then realized that it really is their problem, not mine. Cue the malicious compliance. I found a lovely time when all 3 of my most concerning resistors were away. 2 were on meetings with corporate for 2 to 3 days, 1 was on vacation for the rest of the week. This was great, as it was my last week as well. I hauled all kinds of butt that week. I reorganized the whole place to my OCD specs. I wanted everything to fit. I wanted everything perfectly presentable. I did it my way and got everything in. To note, some years, especially in peak winter with lots coming in, we got so overstocked we couldn't fit everything all at once, which also was because of them not letting me deal with it efficiently. I took care of that overstock and fit it all in. Brands were moved and notes left. I let all my favorite coworkers who pulled my inventory the most know what's up. They adapted instantly because it's really not that hard. Just remember the salt is in the pantry now, not next to the stove. I was commended on my effort and thanked for doing that before leaving. However, I knew what was coming. No, not from the guys who didn't want my organization methods. By not replacing me or at least covering what I've been doing for 10 years, well, imagine it like giving someone a nice, clean, and well-working car that they never maintain because it was always taken care of. Yeah, I started my new job and got paid almost double. A couple months in, and I started getting calls from former coworkers. Apparently, they never really tried to replace me at all. Things fell apart. Tires were shoved into the racks with no regard for where they belonged. If there was space, fill it. After 3 months, I heard 3 longtime employees walked out because of the lack of organization was killing their bay times for dealing with cars, leading to a domino fall of stressful work environment stuff. It took an average of 15 minutes at our store to deal with most things on one car. However, I was told it was taking that long just to find the units needed after pulling the car in. Heck, sometimes they gave up and tried to huff it to another nearby store to find their tires, thinking they had an inventory error. Obviously, that level of delay and inefficiency made the managers angry at those they blamed. Service techs usually got the heat. I wish I could say there were more juicy details about the aftermath, but at a certain point, all my ears in that store left. I feel like that's enough said in and of itself. One bit that came about the 4 or 5 month mark after I left though, one of the managers called me on my personal phone. They asked how I was doing and wondered if my new job was working out. I was very happy and energetically told them how great I felt in my new job. He inquired whether I might be interested in helping out at the store again. I declined. Now, I'm not the best at reading people, but this person seemed so lost in their tone that I can only guess they had so little luck in finding a replacement for what I did. I'm far more appreciated now in my new job. The thing that made me feel a little bad, but also goodish, is that my former coworkers agreed that when I left was when things started to get terrible. It probably didn't hurt that I was the insatiable goof of the store too, who told so many bad puns. So you'd been there for 10 years, you wanted to make that place more efficient, and they wouldn't let you? I mean, come on. It sounds like management didn't know what they had there. Thank you to all 4 OPs for posting their stories in the Malicious Compliance subreddit. They are linked in the description down below. Please go check them out. Check out one of these other videos, and if you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories.